Tonight's Lighthouse project is generously sponsored, thank you very much, by Chaim Breyer, who, if I'm not mistaken, is a Chaim Breyer who I'm a good fan of, big fan, good friend, for the refuah shleima of his father, Avram Eli ben Rivka, and in honor of Princess Feldman, Princess Feldman, in honor of her upcoming marriage this Sunday to Jack Dweck, and in honor of her family. Hashem should bless you with a tremendous amount of good health, happiness, parnasa, and shalom bayit with your husband.
Amen.
And should bless your family with everything they need, give you a lot of nachat from your kids and grandkids.
Amen.
By DJ Acquisitions for the refuah shleima of Menachem Menom and Sarbatya and Devorah Fega Bat Rezel. And in memory of Eliyahu Zalman Ben Avram Yisachar, and last but not least, in honor of the birthday of Mi Madre, my mother, the woman who birthed me. May she live very, very long, and Lord knows everybody really owes her a great debt of gratitude for putting up with this for that long. So, Mommy, if you're watching, thank you very much, and if you're not watching, then I will guilt you about this for the next 10 years. Okay, so, yes, with that, let's jump right into it. So, as everybody is no doubt aware, yesterday was Tisha B'Av.
Of course.
And so I figured it would be very, very appropriate. Let me just get my Mishnah Torah up here. It would be very, very appropriate to discuss the things that are supposed to happen post Tisha B'Av. Like we're all sitting there on the floor and we're crying and we're sad and we're fasting and we're schwitzing and it's gross and it's disgusting. And then you read the Gemara. The Gemara says this wonderful thing. The Gemara says, Mikan Amru, from here they say, Kol hamisabel al Yerushalayim. Anybody who mourns, who is mitabel from the language of avel, of avelut, anyone who mourns for Yerushalayim, zoche v'ro'eh b'simchata. The person who mourns is going to be zoche, he will merit to see in its happiness. V'she'eno mitabel al Yerushalayim, and he who does not mourn on Yerushalayim, eino ro'eh b'simchata, you are not going to see in its happiness. So anyone who mourns, who does Tisha B'Av, they are going to merit to eventually see the redemption, and anyone who doesn't is not going to see the redemption. Wonderful. Now let me ask you the very obvious question to anybody who has ever in their lives read this Gemara. We have been doing Tisha B'Av for how long now?
I can tell you because Vanessa already mentioned it.
Tell me. Round up to the nearest thousand.
1,923 years.
There you go. Almost 2,000 years. Yes? Would you say there were probably a few people who were mourning in that time? Yeah, like many. Did they get to see it? No, not so much. So who are you fooling?
Or not.
Who are you fooling, right? The Gemara says that anybody who mourns is going to merit to see in its rebuilding. And guess what? They didn't. That's it. It's a fact. I don't know how you get around that one. There's another one of my favorites from Tisha B'Av, which is that the Mashiach, which we're going to be talking about tonight, the Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. Ooh, very, very Harry Potter, right? A little bit Jon Snow, almost. That he's born among, salt and fire and the falling of the... Yeah, so the Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. That's beautiful. So was my mother, incidentally. Although my mother's not Mashiach because she's not male. Hey, mom, nowadays, Anyway, so the Mashiach is also born on Tisha B'Av, and I was wondering, where do you come up with a prophecy like that? It just seems to be a little bit hokey, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's a little strange. So we're going to talk about Mashiach. It's going to be a lot of fun. I was taught as a child, incidentally. I was taught this as a child, and I know you went to Jewish school, so you'll tell me if you heard this also, that up there in the sky, in Shemayim, there is a temple, a Beit HaMikdash, and every time you do a mitzvah, another brick goes into the Beit HaMikdash. And every time you do a sin, one of the bricks gets taken off.
Ouch.
Right? Did you hear this as a child? You heard this? You ever heard this? It's a very famous thing. It's out there. I mean, again, I heard it, you heard it. It's been around for a very long time. A very, very, very long time. It hasn't come down yet, this fiery temple, right? It hasn't come down. Why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? I mean, I know that my daughter comes home and tells me that she did mitzvahs today and she got a mitzvah note, and therefore that's more X bricks in the Beit HaMikdash. She tells me these things with a lot of glee, and she's so proud of herself and she's so happy. She really feels it. It's great. I love her. She's wonderful. She's like a daughter to me. Yeah. So she comes and she believes this. She believes this. And you sit there and you think to yourself, this must be a really freaking big building, like with all those bricks. Right? I mean, that's one possibility. Alternatively, there's like a few people doing good things And 1 million people with sledgehammers. That's another possibility, right? Or everyone's really righteous and it's a union contract, and maybe that's why it hasn't been done yet. But you get it? So the truth is that the real problem nowadays is that we understand the solar system a little bit better. So a few thousand years ago, if the furthest you could imagine is the clouds, then yeah, sure, there's a great big Beit HaMikdash in the sky, and every time I do a mitzvah, a brick gets put on, and you can buy that. You can buy that. Then you sort of back up a little bit, and you get like a Hubble telescope. You don't even need a Hubble telescope to see like the ridiculousness of this. So is God sitting there on Saturn, like building it, and he's gonna like put it down? It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. Kids think that the heavens are up, right? The heavens aren't up. What's up? There's no up. Up only matters to one thing: you. You. It's totally based on you. There is no up. It's made up. Yes? If you're on this side of the earth, that's up. If you're on that side of the earth, that's up. There is no objective up. So there's also no objective like heaven. God isn't sitting there in the middle of outer space, somewhere in the galaxy creating this building. It's just not true. So you can say, well, what we mean when we say that the building is going to descend from heaven, we don't mean that it's going to descend from like that heaven. We mean a different dimension. We mean magic. God is going to magic the burning building down onto the Temple Mount. That's what we mean by that. And that's beautiful. And that's beautiful. So I was once having this discussion with a good friend of mine, with Abby Berkowitz. He's a very, very great man. I don't know if you've had the pleasure and honor of knowing him. He's a wonderful man. And he lives in Miami Beach. And we were in shul one time, and someone was giving a speech. It was very boring, and we were talking. And he says to me, he's like, Shlomo, like, why do you get so upset when people say these things? Like, he saw because someone was talking about that, and I was like making faces and grumbling, and like there was smoke coming out of my ears. And he's like, who cares? Okay, so you think a little differently, like it's benign. It seems to be a really good point. Right? He's this very intelligent guy, and he's basically saying, Shlomo, what the hell's the matter with you? Chill out. Tranquilo. Like, okay, they think one thing, you think another thing. What's the big deal? Very valid question. I will tell you what I told him. I'm going to tell you right now. The belief that the third temple will descend from heaven in fire is not benign. It's toxic. It's toxic. And I'll tell you why it's toxic. Watch this. I'll tell you why. Simple reason. There are two possibilities. Possibility number one, the temple is going to be built by humans. Machines, humans, but physical things. Okay? People are going to take initiative and build it. Possibility number two, God is going to magic it down from the heavens. Okay. If you believe that God is going to magic it down from the heavens, how are you going to react when people start breaking ground on building one?
Oh, gosh.
You're going to pick it. That's weird. You're not going, ooh, right? You're not going to let them. Maybe, probably, right? The answer is you're not going to let them. You're not going to let them. If someone starts laying foundations on that mountain to build a temple, and you believe that God is supposed to build a temple, you're going to blow up the foundations every time they put it in there. You're going to sit down and lay down in front of the bulldozers and say, you can't build there. God has to build there. You will hold up the building forever. So it's not a benign difference. It's a very, very incredibly important, concrete difference of opinion. And they can't both be right. One is right and one is wrong, or they're both wrong, right? But they definitely can't both be right. It can't be built by humans and machines and also God and fire, right? That those two things don't work. Right? They're mutually exclusive. So what I would like to do is offer you an alternative that does not involve ghosts and goblins, and yet also...
This isn't Halloween.
This is not Halloween. And also, it's going to have to allow for the Zohar. Because after all, where did my daughter's teacher and your teacher and my teacher and your teacher, where did our teachers all get this from? Well, presumably they didn't get it from the Zohar, but they got it from someone who got it from someone who got it from someone who read it in the Zohar, because it says in the Zohar that the fiery building is going to come down. Well, we don't think the Zohar is crazy, do we? So if the Zohar is not crazy because it was written by a really, really smart guy, and yet we don't believe in like magic fiery buildings, then we're going to have to figure out a way to reconcile those two ideas. So we're going to do that. Furthermore, there are some other things that I would like to see. So again, very quickly, does the Mashiach really have to be born on Tisha B'Av? That's one question. Secondly, these people that were mourning all those years and didn't get to see it, they're never going to get to see it, so the Gemara sounds a little bit strange. And what does it mean that this building is going to descend in fire if we don't actually think it will? Those are the three questions that we want to deal with thus far. Now I'd like to enter into a small understanding of Mashiach itself. Basic questions. For example, what's the point of Mashiach? What's the point? When I went to school, we sang songs about Mashiach, right? We want Mashiach now, we want Mashiach now, we want Mashiach now, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, we don't want to wait, whatever. There's all sorts of, right? There's all 1, 2, 3, 4. So many great songs. They haven't come out with so many new ones. They're still singing the songs that you were singing and I was singing, you were singing. It's fine. But we all sang the songs. We want Mashiach now. And we got the flags, and we got the kippahs, and we rode around in the vans, and then we were in the parade. We want Mashiach now. And you know what no one ever told me? Por qué? Why? What's the point of Mashiach? I know it's great. There's going to be a lot of ice cream. I was a kid. It was going to be great. There's going to be ice cream. But why? What's the point of Mashiach? What's going to be different in the world? What's going to be better? These are things that we should probably discuss a little bit. What's going to be better? And I have another question.
The lion will lie down with the lamb.
The lion and the lamb. We're going to talk about the lion and the lamb. Why isn't he here yet? Why can't we just put on a few more tefillins? Just a few more tefillins. 5 more. 500 more. 5,000 more. 5 million more. However many more it is. Let's set people up. 5 million more tefillins. We can do that. How much does that even cost, right? It's not that much. We can get 5 million more tefillins.
It's a few hundred at least.
Okay, a few hundred. No. We can raise the money for that. A few more tefillins.
If you're dealing with
a few more Shabbos.
If you're dealing with Rabbi Time, it's another story. That's 1,500 each.
Okay. A few more Shabbos. A few more Shabbats. We can add it. Why isn't he here yet? What is he waiting for? And you say, "Whoa, he needs to wait for the Jews to be perfect." Dude. Thank you. Exactly, right? That's never. So what's he waiting for? Why isn't he here? I have another question. Simple questions, right? I'm a 3rd grader. I learned like a 3rd grader. Very, very low-level questions. How do we know when he's here? How are you going to know? Out of curiosity. How will you know he's here? Now, I know what you're thinking. Because I was thinking that also. It'll be obvious when he's here, right? Everyone will know. Not so much. How do I know it's not going to be obvious? How do we know from Jewish history that it's not obvious? We've had false messiahs, right? We've had false messiahs. Everyone thinks that the most famous false messiah was Shabtai Tzvi. Wrong! There was a more famous one that happened a long time before Shabtai Tzvi, right? This guy? Jesus claimed to be Mashiach. Yes? So we have had many false messiahs and failed messiahs. So you think Shabtai Tzvi, it's an isolated problem that happened, when the Jews were very reeling from the Chmielnitsky massacres and false. That's just not true. Right? We've had so many. We've had everything literally from Jesus of Nazareth to the guy on the Miami Beach golf course. We've had many false messiahs. So if it's so obvious, pray tell, how did all of them become so successful? How are you going to know? How are you going to know?
You're not.
Oh, so you're not. Well, that's a problem. That's a very poor design flaw, isn't it? God's like, I'm going to send you the Mashiach. And all the Jews are going to be like, well, I don't know. How am I going to know? It's a basic question. Maybe stop singing so many songs and try to understand how the hell I'm supposed to know that the guy's actually there. Rambam tells this beautiful story of his father. His father was a major rabbi, Maimonides, right? Rambam, Moshe ben Maimon. His father was a rabbi, I believe, in Isfahan. And there was a guy who people were saying about him that he was the Mashiach. Not the guy was saying about himself. It's not like the guy got up on a big toadstool and said, I am the Mashiach, give me all your money and your women. Somebody said. Other people were saying, this guy's amazing, he's such a big scholar, and he's so holy, and he's the Mashiach. And Rambam's father, who was the head of the court there, had him dragged through the streets naked and whipped in the city square. Okay? Why? The guy presumably was not a cruel, angry person. The reason is because it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. False messiahs are incredibly dangerous because people listen to them. So tens of thousands of Jews died because of these people. And then many of them converted to Islam, right? The religion of peace under Shabtai Tzvi. Because Shabtai Tzvi was hauled in front of the Sultan, and the Sultan gave him two choices. Choice number one, die. Choice number two, convert to Islam. Guess which one he chose? I'll give you a hint. The one that you would have chosen too, not the die one, right? Die one, I learned this also at a very young age. When you have a choice between something else and die, choose something else. 9 times out of 10, right? It's a good bet. It's a good bet. So false messiahs are incredibly, incredibly dangerous. They're problematic. Okay, fine. Well, if that's the case, let's try to understand all of these ideas. Let's start at the beginning. The word Mashiach. The word Mashiach. May as well start with the definition. What does the word Mashiach mean? So I ask this question left and right. I ask it to everybody. I get words like Redeemer. Redeemer, Savior, Son of God, King. I get words like this a lot. It doesn't mean any of those words.
It means absolutely nothing.
No, it doesn't mean nothing. It's a word. It means something.
Oh.
It means something. You know what it means? You're going to love this. It means Christ. Sorry if that bothers you. The word Mashiach means Christ. True story. True story. What's the word Christ mean?
Oh, that's...
What's the word Christ mean? It's Greek. It means anointed. Christ is a Greek translation of the word Mashiach or Mashuach. Now, why would the Greeks, or why would the original Christians call Jesus the Christ? Why would they call him the Anointed One? Because they were claiming that he was king of the Jews. And the king is anointed by the holy oil, as, by the way, is the Queen of England, and I'm sure many other monarchs around the world. So the Jewish king is anointed. The Jewish king is not the only person in Judaism who is anointed. There is a Mashuach Milchama, there is a Kohen who is anointed, there are various people who are anointed, but the king is one of them. And therefore, since the king is anointed, therefore we call him the Mashiach. I don't know why I can't see the comments, guys. I'm so sorry. Hey, what's up, Shem? Yeah, so... It means anointed one. And if you're wondering, do Jews have a king? Yes, Jews have a king. Jews have a king. It's not exactly a theocracy, and it's not exactly a monarchy. It's a theo-democratic monarchy. Okay, it's much more. The Jewish king has more to do with the American idea of an executive branch. But we can. No, it is. It mirrors it a lot more. But one day maybe we'll have a class and we'll discuss what that means. So in Judaism, the king is anointed, and therefore we call the king the Mashiach. That's it. Simple. And therefore they call Jesus Christ. That's why. That's literally why. That's why Jews for Jesus don't say the word Christ. They don't say the word Christ. You know what they call him? They call him Yeshua HaMashiach. That's what they call him, Yeshua HaMashiach. Jesus the Christ. Yeshua HaMashiach. That's what they call him. Okay? So the first thing is, doesn't mean Redeemer, doesn't mean Savior, doesn't mean Magic Man, doesn't mean Son of God, doesn't mean Son of King, doesn't mean fly, Icarus, nothing. It means anointed, period. End of story, punto. By the way, this also will help you draw the conclusion as to why the Romans didn't like Jesus. Tell me, if Jesus is claiming to be the king of the Jews, tell me something. According to the Romans, who's king of the Jews? Caesar is king of the Jews, not you. And if you're claiming to be king of the Jews, you are a traitor to Caesar, and I'm going to kill you. So the Jews were not the only people that had a problem with Jesus. The Romans didn't like him all that much, right? That's why they crucified him. That's like the old story when we say, well, Jews killed Jesus. Jews don't crucify people. We stone them, we behead them. I mean, we have all sorts of fun ways to kill people, but that's not what we do. That's a Roman thing. That's a Roman thing. Anyway, okay. So let's talk a little bit about now that we understand what Mashiach means. Let's talk about the point of Mashiach. I was at a Farbrengen a little while ago. True story. I know there are many people that are laughing right now. It's a true story. Yes, as a matter of fact, I was at a Farbrengen. I had a great time. It was wonderful. I was out with the guys. It was great. And one of the people who was there, it was at a person's house, and one of the people who was there is a person who I love and respect. He is a wise and sagacious and wonderful, wonderful man. And he was mentioning that he was at a rabbi convention, And you know the story's going to end well when you start with like Rabbi Convention. He's at a Rabbi Convention.
I think it's was the Knesset Shluchim.
No, it wasn't. It was a different one. And he said that there was this guy that got up and gave a speech and was talking about how really, even though we're from all different streams of Judaism in this room, we got 300 different rabbis, but we all basically want the same thing. We want our children to grow up with good values and to have good homes and to be successful people and good human beings, etc. Okay, so this friend of mine afterwards reached out to the rabbi who was speaking, and he said to him, he says, Rabbi, I enjoyed your speech. I thought it was very nice what you said, but I realized that, you and I actually don't want the same thing. We don't. I mean, I want all that. That's true. I do want all that, everything that you said, but that's not my goal. My goal in life isn't to have like a nice family. My goal in life is to bring Mashiach. So my goal is way different than yours. And I heard him say that, and I thought, I'm like, wow, that's really, really cool. That's awesome. First of all, that like you cared enough to actually reach out and tell the guy where you differed. It shows that you listened and you took it in. And then the fact that you say what you believe, you have a different thing, that's cool. And I turned to him and I said, that's amazing. And I want to tell you that I disagree with both you and him. Because what would a good Jewish story be without 14 people with different opinions? I say, to me, Mashiach's not the goal. Mashiach's not the goal. What do you think you're going to do? Mashiach is going to come and you're like, oh, he's here! Now we can all go home and eat pizza. Forever. Pizza forever. Like, what do you think? Like, that's not the end, right? Is that the end? It's the night of the living dead. Everybody crawls out of the... Grandpa comes back. That's not what it is. That's not what it is. It's not the end. So what is it? And we had this great conversation. It was a lot of fun. So I want to read for you what the Rambam says. Rambam says as follows. HaMelech HaMashiach, the king, the Mashiach. In the future, he will reinstate the house of David. You have like House Stark, House Targaryen, House of David. Okay? He is going to reinstate the house of David to its original, beautiful, glorious monarchy. And he builds the temple, he builds the temple, and he will ingather all of the Jews back to the land of Israel. And at that time, and he's going to bring back all of the laws that were like they were in the beginning. We're going to have sacrifices and Shemitah and Yovel and all sorts of things. Everything that the Torah says, we're going to have again. Wonderful. So everything's going to remain the same. But excuse me, but Rambam, what miracles is he going to have to perform so we can know it's him? Right? I have to know. How am I going to know it's him? Glad you asked, says the Rambam. Rambam says as follows, and listen to his words because they're beautiful words. Ve'al ya'aleh al da'atcha. You know what that means? Ve'al, and it should not. Ya'aleh, go up, al da'atcha, on your mind. It shouldn't go up on your mind. Meaning what he's about to say is not merely something which he rejects as false. He's saying that to even consider this as a possibility would make you an idiot. It shouldn't even occur to you for a second. That's what he's saying. Al ya'aleh al da'atcha. Don't think that the king, the Mashiach, has to do goblins and magic and make new things in the world or bring back the dead or things like that. That's ridiculous. Oh, what Rambam, why do you think that's ridiculous? It's not like that. How do you know? Listen to his proof. His proof is so simple. It's the beauty of the simplicity and the brilliance of the Rambam. He says as follows. Well, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Akiva, you've heard of him? Like one of the greatest minds ever of the Tanakh era. Well, guess what? He was pretty convinced someone was Mashiach, wasn't he? Who did Rabbi Akiva think was Mashiach? Bar Kokhba. Very good.
Nice job.
Bar Kokhba. Says the Rambam. The who haya nosei kelev shel ben Kuziba hamelech. He would be the squire and schlep around the luggage of Ben Kuziba is Bar Kokhba. Ben Kuziba, see, his real name was Bar Kuspa. That was actually his name. His name was Simon Shimon Ben Kuspa. So they called him Bar Kokhba, which means son of a star. Also like a nickname. It's not shorter, but instead of Ben Kuspa, it was Ben Kokhba. And then Rambam calls him Ben Kuziba, which means son of Kazav is like is a lie and a charlatan, because he ended up not being, the Mashiach. So Rabbi Akiva thought that Bar Kokhba was Mashiach. But well, 1 second. Did he ever ask him to do a miracle? No. The rabbis never said, excuse me, before I go all in on your rebellion. By the way, remember, right, Bar Kokhba had a rebellion against who? Against the Smurfs? Against Rome, right? Against Rome. What happens to you when you lose that? You die. Badly. Badly. Rabbi Akiva did not die well. I mean, he died well, but he didn't die pleasant, right? They peeled his skin off. Okay, yeah, true story. True story. Like Ramsey Bolton style, okay? Rabbi Akiva and all of the people at the time knew that if you're going to follow this guy, you better think he's actually going to win. You're not going to like fool yourself and go all in on a guy against the Roman Empire. He thought he was Mashiach. Well, if Mashiach has magic, then the first question that you would ask him would be like, excuse me, before we get started on this, can you just like do a card trick or something? Like, could you show me, give me a little bit, I don't know, make it rain, make it stop raining, pull a rabbit out of your hat, pull tefillin out of your ear, do something. Do something. That's your first question. By the way, if you meet Merlin, you're still not necessarily going to follow him to attack the Roman army. You still might not. You're like, your magic is very powerful, but I don't know. I don't know. They never asked him anything. Why didn't they ask him anything? Why didn't they ask him to do a miracle? Very simple. Because why the heck would you ask him to do a miracle? That's insane. People don't do miracles. People do magic. Well, if you thought he's Mashiach, he should be able to do magic. No! Mashiach is not Dumbledore. He does not do magic. Oh, cool. Okay, so then that makes sense. Well, Rambam says, listen, unbelievable. He says, V'ikar hadvarim kachahen. You know what the main thing is about this stuff? Shatorah hazos, this Torah, chukea umishpatea le'olamu me'olamim. Its rules and its laws, its parameters are eternal. They're forever. You don't add to them. You don't detract from them. Nothing changes. Nothing changes in this world. You're not magic people. Except, so then how do we know Bar Kokhba was not Mashiach? Very simple. Because he died. What did Rambam say Mashiach does? Builds a temple, gets rid of the enemies of God, and brings the Jews back into the land. Did Bar Kokhba do that? No. He tried. He failed. He died. He's not Mashiach. Therefore, says the Rambam, he continues, and if there arises a king from the house of David, who's a good guy, and he's pious, and he learns Torah like his father, and he learns the written Torah and the oral Torah, and he gets the Jews to do the Torah, and he fights the words of God, then you can assume he's Mashiach. I love those words. You assume he's Mashiach. Assume he's Mashiach? Rambam, isn't it going to be obvious? Isn't he going to come flying down on a donkey that flies like a Pegasus, shooting firebolts out of his mouth? No, he's not. Therefore, you can assume he's Mashiach. If he succeeds, if he does this, continues the Rambam, and succeeds, and he builds the temple in its place. Why in its place? Because he'd be like, well, God told me I should build it in, Punta Cana. No, it has to be there, okay? You got to deal with the Arabs. You have to put it there. If you succeed and you put it there and you bring in the Jews, then you're Mashiach for sure. So what does Mashiach do? Very simple. Gets rid of the enemies of God. People are trying to kill us, stab us in supermarkets, whatever it happens to be at the time. Builds a temple, gets the Jews back. That's it. That's what he does. Now we know what he does. Now we know what it means. Now we know who he is. And now we know how you know whether or not it's him. Marvelous. And if the lo hitzliach adko, and if he does not succeed in doing all those things, or he dies, biyadua, you can be sure, she'ein ze hifticha alav Torah. This is not the one that the Torah promised. Very, very simple. It's not the guy. It's a different guy. He was a lovely Jewish king, and he died like all the other lovely Jewish kings who died. Marvelous. Yeah. But tell me, Rambam, after he does come and builds the temple and brings all the Jews back to Israel, then it's going to rain pizza, right? Then everything's going to be awesome, right? Al ya'aleh al halev. Let it not go up on your heart. Notice the difference between what he said here and what he said there. When it came to identifying the Mashiach, I know this is a little bit of a linguistic subtlety, but it's not that subtle, so listen, you'll get it. In the beginning, he said, Al ya'aleh al datcha. Don't let it go up on your mind. Don't let it go up on your mind. Now he's saying, Al ya'aleh al halev. Don't let it go up on your heart. What's the difference? Oh, one is something that you think, and one is something that you feel. right? Don't even want to feel this way. If you feel this way, if you desire this, it is a wrong thing to desire. You have a perverse desire in your heart if you want this. Al yal, do not let yourself think shebimos haMashiach, that at the time of the Mashiach, yivatel davar miminago shel olam. Anything that you know today to be true in physics and science and biology and math and gravity and electromagnetism and all of those rules, don't think that any of them are going to change. Don't think that there's going to be anything new in creation. Ela olam kiminago holech. The world will go just as it always has. And as my friend here says, but 1 second, Rambam! I read the verse in Isaiah, and it says in Isaiah, Vigar zevim keves v'namer v'dir bats. It says that the lion and the lamb are going to dwell together, and that seems rather miraculous to me. No, Rambam says, Mashal v'chida. Well, that's a parable. What's the parable? It means that, well, who do you think the lamb is? I send thee out like lambs among the wolves. Shimmy, I know you get that reference. The Jews are the lamb. You've got wolves that have been snapping at our heels for 2,000 years, killing us. When Mashiach comes, everything's going to be good. We're going to live together nicely. It's a parable. It's a parable. That's it. That's all it is. Well, what will change? Amru Chachamim, our rabbi said, Ein bein olam hazeh limot haMashiach ela shibud malchiot bilvad. The only difference between today and Mashiach is that we're not going to be subjugated to foreign governments. That's it. Really. It's an argument, obviously. I mean, yeah, I shouldn't really say this before as a disclaimer. This is like, this is a way of understanding it. It's the one that personally I happen to believe for the reasons that I'm telling you today, and probably another 15 reasons that I haven't thought of or don't want to bore you with. But it just seems to me like to be obviously true. So, now, well, then why do we want Mashiach? If it's just a dude, so we want it for the nice building so we can have a nice temple. I mean, have you ever been to like the Safra Shul? That's a pretty nice temple, right? I mean, this is a nice temple too, but like I've been to some really nice temples. We have really nice temples. I clearly don't want Mashiach so we can have a really cool building. The nicest Jewish building in the world is, I don't know, like the Twin Towers, right? That's the nicest Jewish building, I don't know. Like, we have nice buildings. That's not why we desired, obviously. So Rambam says as follows, Lonis avu hachachamim v'hanavim yemos Mashiach. The wise men, Chazal, and the prophets did not desire Mashiach, lo kadei sheyishletu hakol ha'olam, not to like rule the world. You have these Jews that think, oh, Mashiach comes, we're going to rule the world. No. And not to beat up the Gentiles. And not to be greater and exalted over all the nations, and not to eat and drink and make merry. Ela kedei, only for sheyiyu penuyim b'Torah v'chachmasa, that they will be free to learn Torah and its wisdom. What a bummer, right? What a letdown. You're telling me that I'm waving the flag and wearing the kippah and singing the song and going on the march just so I could learn Torah without being bothered? I mean, I can do that right now. Baruch Hashem. That's why. That's it. Because see, you have to understand something, right? You have to put your mind to like Game of Thrones mode a little bit, okay? If you were a Jew living in the end of the Second Temple era, you could have been sitting there with your kids, learning a nice book, and all of a sudden, hairy, smelly, barbarian guy kicks down the door and starts stabbing everybody, and you're like, dude, what the heck, man? Why? Just like, why? Leave us alone. Leave us alone. You know why the rabbis desired the Mashiach? So that we could read our books without being, stabbed and rammed with cars and blown up on buses and killed in the streets of Marseille and everywhere else. Leave us alone. That's it. That's what he does. Wow. All of a sudden you're thinking like the song is a waste, right? He concludes as follows. And in that time, there won't be famine, there won't be war. And there won't be competition. There will be so much goodness everywhere. And all of the luxuries. All the luxuries are going to be like dirt. It's going to be dirt. And the only thing that people are going to want to do all day is find God. Well, that's interesting. Rambam seems to be contradicting himself. On the one hand, he's telling me On the one hand, he's telling me that nothing changes. Yes, you were here when we read that. Nothing changes. On the other hand, you're telling me that there's not going to be famine and there's not going to be war and everyone's just and luxuries are going to be everywhere. Well, which one is it? You can't have it both ways, right? He wants to eat his cake and have it too. It's a problem. Yeah, it's a problem.
A very big problem.
Very big problem. Seemingly a very big problem. The truth is that obviously it's not whatsoever a problem. But we're so daft. We are so daft. Let's assume for a moment there's going to be no famine and no war? Luxuries everywhere for nothing? Amazing. You know what that sounds a lot like? Our world. Sounds a lot like our world. Tell me something. What would have to happen in order for us to feed the entire world? In order to have no one starving in this world, what would have to change? Would the temperature of global warming have to change? We have to have more? Nothing. Nothing. You know what has to change? We have to want to. We have to want to. We burn enough produce in this country for price controls to feed other countries.
You have to be the one to make the change.
Dude, don't blame me. I'm just saying, what's out there.
Oh.
I'm just the talker. I'm not the doer. What do they say? Those who can't do teach. Those who can't teach, teach Jim. Is that what they say? And so nothing has to change. What do you have to do? What do you have to have no war in the world? This is great. This is my favorite one. You know what you have to do to have no war in the world? Stop fighting. What miracle do you think has to happen? What needs the trees need to turn purple for there to be no war in the world? You need the seas to rise and the sun to go away? You don't need to fight. The only people holding back this era are people. That's it. The only people are the people. It's the people. There's no external force which is somehow holding you back and refraining from you being able to attain this. This is attainable today. And when it says, the luxuries are going to be like everywhere, like nothing, like dirt. Luxuries like dirt. You want to hear something crazy? I had this thought. I know it's weird. It's a weird thought. But consider this, because we have poverty problems in this country, right? We have poverty problems in this country. Terrible, terrible poverty problems. Imagine this. If you work in McDonald's for $7 an hour, which is it's not a lot of money, right? It's not a lot of money. If you work in McDonald's for $7 an hour, after how many hours can you feed your family? How big is your family? Let's say you got 2 kids. 1 hour. 1 hour. Do you know what a revolution that is? Do you understand that with $7 you can buy 7 meals in McDonald's? 7 meals. No, I understand it's not kosher, but that's not the point. I'm talking about the world, on a global basis. It has never been this way. Do you know what people had to do in order to eat? Do you know how hard it was to eat? First of all, if you didn't live next to a well, you were screwed. The poorest of the poor have water coming out of the wall, okay? And you can turn it on and turn it off whenever you want. It's not like there's a leak. And not only that, you can decide how hot or cold you want it. You can work for an hour and feed your family. There's no such thing as poverty in America. You know how you know there's no such thing as poverty in America? Because ask the Africans. Ask the Sudanese if there's poverty in America. Most of the world gets by on less than $3 a day. Most of the world, the majority of the world, $3 a day. You're telling me we're poor in America? No one's poor in America. But the goalposts keep moving, right? They just keep moving. So it's like, well, of course I could have a burger, but that's not a healthy burger. That's not a healthy burger. That's not an organic burger with vegan lettuce. With specially organic grown on Jeff Bezos's farm lettuce. I want a TV. What, the fat boob tube? No! I want a flat screen, 70-inch. You keep moving the goalposts. Say, well, people don't have health care. True, it's true, people don't have health care. Do you know what health care was 50 years ago? Health care was a dude with a black bag. That's healthcare. Except the advances have become so incredible that now we can find cancer and cure it. Sometimes. We could take your heart out and put a different one in. That's very expensive. Not everyone can afford that. Does that mean we don't have healthcare? You have penicillin. Henry VIII didn't. Kings are going to be like dirt. He means it. And in fact, it's like dirt in two ways. I don't know if this is what he meant when he wrote that, but there are two ways that the luxuries that we have today are analogous to dirt. Number one, they're everywhere. They're everywhere in our world. Number two, we trample on them. We have zero appreciation for that. Zero. We're all jealous of the Joneses or the Schwartzes. Right? We have everything. We have things that our great-great-great-grandparents couldn't imagine. Not didn't dream of. Couldn't imagine. So you have a question. I don't understand, Rambam. You're telling me on the one hand that the entire world is exactly the same and nothing changes and it's going to be the same with Mashiach. And on the other hand, you're telling me there's not going to be any war, there's not going to be any famine, there's going to be luxuries everywhere. Well, isn't that going to change? No, it's not. I mean, your perspective might have to change. You might have to shift this a little bit. So let's go back and see if we've answered our questions. We say, well, why do we want Mashiach? Because we would like to learn Torah and actualize our lives. You see, if you have everything already, then what's left? It's amazing. You see all these stars, right? Committing suicide. It's very sad. God forbid, I'm not making light of this. Okay? And I like Lincoln. I like Lincoln Park. I do. By the way, did you hear a song, Heavy, from this year? It's like I heard the song now, and it's like literally, it's a song about a guy who's so depressed he's going to kill himself. And then he did. And it's just like, wow, like I really like the song. And then in view of this, it really like messed me up a little bit. Anyway, so you have all these stars. And these stars have everything that the people in 10th grade want. If you ask a kid in 10th grade, what do you want when you grow up? Just like here, you have a genie, right? You found Aladdin's lamp, you rub it, poof, genie comes out, give me everything. And you list everything on that list, these stars have all those things, and then they kill themselves. Why? Because it's empty. There's nothing there. You got this bottomless pit, so I can fill it up with like drugs and sex and fame. And then what? Then you need more, and it's got to get more freaky, and you got to up the dosage. That's what you got to do. Right? That's the only way. It's the only way. But if you had everything, the human condition needs to strive for something. So it keeps looking for things. And if it doesn't find anything, then it's torturous. And you get a tortured soul. Torah doesn't have that problem. Torah's like, dude, you're not here to get a bath and a cake. That's what a giraffe does. That's what a hippopotamus does. You're not a hippopotamus. You're a human. You're a god. You can sail around the cosmos. And by the way, how far do you think we are from sailing around the cosmos? Ask Elon Musk. Not that far. Everything. You have everything. Luxuries are meaningless. They're nothing. It's a Star Trekian world where you have 3D printers where you say, I want this. Hit a button and it's there for you. Immediately. That's not magic. So what is there left to do? To be human. To be what makes you different than the animals. To think. To experience on a whole different level. That's the Torah. That's what we're trying to do. We want Mashiach for that reason. Okay, well, what changes? Everything and nothing. Everything changes. Physics don't change. Is he born on Tisha B'Av? Well, yes and no. He's born from Tisha B'Av the same way that America was born from the ashes of the revolution. The same way that Israel was born from the Holocaust. Tisha B'Av is the day that our Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. That is the day that we are also, the Redeemer is born on that day. The fixing comes from that. From the breakage, we understand that we're broken and we need to fix it. When we eventually do fix it, when we figure it out, that was born on Tisha B'Av. That comes from the destruction, from the ashes. It's not, oh, we did something bad and we got smacked and now we're going to do something good and get a temple. The temple was destroyed because we were decrepit. And when we understand what we did wrong and we fix it, then it will come back and it will be a holiday. That's what it means that Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. I believe what it means that. How will we know? Easy, we'll have a country and a temple, very simple. But what did we mean when we said all the way in the beginning that the Gemara says that the people who mourn for Yerushalayim, they will merit to see in its rebuilding. And those who don't mourn will not merit to see in its rebuilding. So I'm going to tell you something that I don't know how you're going to feel about it, but I firmly believe in this. Human beings are very silly creatures. Very silly creatures. They're very myopic. So you exist in this tiny little cosmic puff of space-time, and everything that you experience is through your own eyes. And you think of the world as how the world relates to you. That's how you, I don't mean you, I mean you, the human. That's how every human feels. But that's not true, right? We know that even time is relative. There is no time, right? Why do we view things like that? If you were to zoom out for a moment and think of yourself, not just as yourself, but rather your entire line from beginning to end, your ancestors and your descendants, if you view that as you, the greater tribe of you, beginning then and ending there and having this trajectory, so essentially you're not a single individual, you are a link in a chain. Now, this isn't such a crazy alien concept. I mean, is your finger you? Well, I mean, it is and it isn't. It's a piece of you. It's not you. See, your finger's not self-aware. That's the only reason why it can function that way. If your finger was self-aware, it wouldn't feel the same as your other fingers, and it would probably start to hit them. So I think I'm different, but I'm not. I'm not. I'm a link in a chain that started thousands of years ago and is going somewhere. Anyone who mourns over Jerusalem, who really mourns and matters to him, he'll still be around. He'll still be around. Is it going to be him? Is it going to be the guy from 1850? No, it's not going to be Bob from 1850. It'll be Bob's descendant, Roberto. Roberto will be there. Roberto is Bob. And the guy who doesn't mourn in Yerushalayim, no problem. He'll be gone. That doesn't mean that it's not a punishment. You have to understand this. It's not a punishment. It's not like God is getting pissed off at the guy who says, I'm not going to celebrate Tisha B'Av, I'm not going to fast, I don't care. That's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, dude, you don't care? If you don't care, then you're not really part of this, are you? You take yourself out, or you put yourself in. It's like the hokey pokey. Make a choice. Put your right foot in, put the right foot out. It's up to you. So the rabbi said the people that mourn for Yerushalayim, they'll be there. They will be there. And it's a long haul, man. It's a long haul. But you know what's so cool about it? You know what's so cool? I've been to Israel. And it's nothing. It's nothing. Credit card. I'm in Israel. Not only that, I'm in Israel 12 hours. Kanfei Nesharim, on the wings of eagles. I'm in Israel in 12 hours. And, you know, the plane ride could be a little bit of a drag. My grandfather was incredibly lucky. He was able to go to Israel on a ship, okay? On a boat, which took, God, I don't know how long it took, but I promise you it was longer than 12 hours, okay? And it wasn't nearly as comfortable. It was disgusting, I'm sure, pathetic. He was lucky. He was lucky because most Jews, over the last 2,000 years, most Jews couldn't go to Israel. Couldn't. Weren't allowed to. Weren't allowed to. So you think, you're like, oh my God. Oh my God. Anyone who mourns over Yerushalayim will merit to see in its rebuilding. You want to know what that looks like? I'm not saying we're done. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's not perfect and we're not done. But you want to know it's a process. How do you know it's a process? It's always been a process. It wasn't a process with Moses. It wasn't a process with Ezra. Rambam says, if a guy does this and he does this and he does this, then you can assume that he's Mashiach, and if he finishes, he's Mashiach. What do you mean? Isn't it just like this? No, you stupid Western 30-second give me my food people. No! It's a trajectory. It's a process. It's a continuum. You can go right now. You can see it. You can live it. I just want to close with this last thing. It's unbelievable. The Gemara says in Makos, at the very end of Makos, that Rabbi Akiva, the very same Rabbi Akiva we were discussing before, was walking with his friends, and they saw the destruction of the temple with the smoldering ruins. Not really smoldering, but and there were like wild animals running around there, and everyone started crying. He started crying. It's just such a tragedy. It's a tragedy, isn't it? And he's laughing. Or he was laughing. So they're like, "What's so funny, dude? Like, why do you think this is funny?" And they said, "Well," and he says, "Then, well, why are you crying? Like, why are we crying? A place that's so holy, and now there's wild animals, little foxes running around there, and you shouldn't cry? How could you not cry?" And he goes, "That's why I'm laughing. I'm laughing. Why? It's because we have two prophecies. One prophecy says, Zion batzadet techaresh. Zion will be plowed over like a field. Plowed over. Just decimated. And then we have another prophecy. Od yeshvuz kenim uskenot rechavot Yerushalayim. There will be old men and old women sitting around in the streets of Jerusalem. Yiladim v'yiladot mesachakim rechavoteh. Kids playing in the streets. Now, what's unbelievable about this is that kids all over the world are learning this Gemara in Makos. When this was written 2,000 years ago, it was an unfathomable prophecy that there would be old people and little kids playing in the streets of Jerusalem. And then 1,000 years after that, it was still unfathomable. And 500 years after that, it was still unfathomable. And 300 years after that, it was still unfathomable. And 100 years after that, it was still unfathomable. And then, boom, we're back. How does that not blow your mind? It's like you read the prophecy, and we're like, well, no, it doesn't really refer to this, because this isn't everything. This isn't everything? Oh my God. How is this not everything? This is more than they could have wished for. So we're not done yet. We're not done yet. How will we know when we're done? We'll have the building. Everyone will be there. It'll make sense at the time. Why do we want it? Not to sit around and eat pizza. We want it to be able to deal with what really matters in this world. And we should be very appreciative and thank God every single day for what we do have, which is so much more than any of our ancestors had. So what happened to the descendants of those people that mourn for Jerusalem? The answer is you and I get to see it. Peace and love.